Our next speaker is Peter McConnon. Peter is well known in Carlow. He's been the Garda here in Carlow for many, many years. He's served in the United Nations as well. A really good guy, and I suppose he's the community face of policing really in Carlow, but he has dealt with some terrible situations in his professional career as a policeman, and the scourge of drugs and drug debt and the impact it has on the individual and on their family. So over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Carlo. Okay, folks, and just again, congratulations to Rita and her team for putting together a fantastic program of events and their ongoing work in Carlow, promoting mental health. I'm a Crime Prevention Officer for the Gardaí, and my area of responsibility is Kilkenny and Carlow, so we have 25 Crime Prevention Officers throughout the country. And one of the portfolios that lands on my desk, and it's an ever-increasing portfolio, is dealing with drug debt intimidation and the impact that that has on not just the individual who is subject to the threat, but also the collateral damage that comes along with that, the impact it has on families, on friends, and on communities. And these drug debts come in all sorts of shapes and forms. They can be low level to the very highest level. And I suppose the ultimate price that we have seen in relation to drug debt is debt. Basically, that's it. And more and more, we're looking at scenarios where people who have gone onto the slippery slope of getting involved in drugs for either wittingly or unwittingly, getting onto that slippery slope and not being able to get off it, and it ends up in the ultimate price. They range from murder to suicide to accidental death from overdose, and everything right back to the huge issues that it has on the mental health of a person. I suppose back in just pre-COVID, on Garda Síochána in Kilkenny and Carlow recognised that drugs was becoming the biggest problem that we had to deal with on an ongoing basis. We set about putting a drugs initiative in place. Part of that initiative, my boss at the time was the Chief Superintendent Dominic Hayes. He asked me to try and come up with some sort of a crime prevention piece on it, so I went away and I had to think about it. And Turlough, if you could just hold up that leaflet there, the red side of it there, we just came up with that leaflet back in 2020, and there's a very simple message on it, and it says drugs ruins lives. And there's an acronym, HEED. There's a couple of leaflets down on the table there for people if they want to take them away, but HEED, and HEED stands for Health, Education, Enforcement and Drug Driving. Because of COVID, we weren't able to pass out these leaflets, and I got 15,000 of them printed, ready to go in different, scenarios, talks, crime prevention desks, initiatives through media and things like that. We weren't able to disseminate them, so they were just left in a drawer really, or in my office. So just very, very briefly, I suppose, Jim Bolger here and Tommy Murphy from Carlow GA approached me in January of this year, and they had a concern in relation to the increased drug use in the GA community in Carlow. Not saying that drugs is obviously, it's a societal problem, and by its very nature, it's going to be in GA circles. So I asked them what did they want out of it, and I wanted to see, could we put an education and awareness initiative in place. So I thought of this leaflet, and I went away, I came back and said, would this fit the bill? So I said, yeah. So we actually had a launch in this room on the 17th of May, and we have this initiative going now with Carlow GA. It's Carlow GA initiative supported by Garda Síochána, and it is Drugs Ruin Lives. And we have to look from a point of view of Garda Síochána as you know, the enforcement part of it, that HEED, H-E-E-D, the E for enforcement, we will look after that. It will always be there. We'll always kick in doors, we'll always get drug dealers, we'll always get people using drugs. And in fact, you know, the numbers are going up and up and up the whole time. But, you know, there's an onus on us to create that awareness and that education among people around the pitfalls and the collateral damage of what taking drugs can do to you. And I suppose the clubs in Carlow took to this, they really took this initiative on board. We are visiting clubs right throughout Carlow at the moment. Kilkenny County Board have taken it on now. There was over 100 delegates in Nolan Park 2 weeks ago to hear our presentation on it. We're down in the Air Road Clubhouse tomorrow with ASCA and Air Road clubs. So we've a good few of our clubs visited in Carlow at the moment. Our vision, I suppose, is to let people know and give them a fair crack at this in relation to, you know, what we're dealing with, and the doors that are going to be closed to you in relation to your drug taking, and I suppose, you know, that young people need to know that if you're caught with drugs, you're going to be prosecuted. If you're prosecuted, you're closing an awful lot of doors to yourself. Doors like representing Ireland strongman and maybe not getting a visa going to America. That's the reality of it. Doors like, I want to be a volunteer with my local GA club. Sorry, but your vetting won't allow you to be a volunteer with your local GA club. And you know, in that crazy moment of time when young guys or girls are, you know, just snorting that bit of coke up their nose, these are things that they're not thinking of. And we just need to flood the communities. So our aim is to get that message of drugs ruin lives into every GA community in Kilkenny, Carlow first of all, then Kilkenny. I know Waterford have launched it. There's a lot of traction among GA clubs and Central Council and Leinster Council to try and do something similar. But if we walk into a GA club and we see a poster, a sign, a billboard, a mural on the side of a wall with that message, and we drive that home to our young people, we might get the message across. It's almost like brainwashing them. You know, if you told me 15, 20 years ago there'd be no smoking in pubs, I wouldn't have believed you. So if you go into a GA club now and this big red writing is stuck in your face, and most of the clubs that we have visited today in Carlow have got their signs up. And I'm involved with Palatine GA Club myself, and you know, you go into the dressing rooms in Palatine GA Club now, that's up on the wall, drugs ruin lives, it's on the side of the pitch, it's on the side of the clubhouse, it's in the bar. When you're going for a wee in the toilet, it's in front of you. And you know, if we can get our coaches and our mentors turning around to the young teams, women and men that are playing GA, firstly, and say, great session tonight, lads, absolutely well done. Now turn around and look at that, read that poster there, read that message. See you all Thursday night again. It's a starting point. We're not going to rid Kilkenny and Carlow of drugs with this initiative, but hopefully we'll create that awareness and that education that people will say, well, maybe it's not worth it. And you know, as I say, when I give my presentation, I'm telling people that I'm dealing with families on an ongoing basis who are subjected to intimidation at the highest level. You know, people who have, families who have paid over €70,000 for a drug debt run up by a family member, only for windows to be put in 3 weeks later because, you know, you're paying that in a car park. You're not getting a receipt for it. It's not like you've gone into Tesco's, you've paid your money, you get something, receipts in your back pocket, you go home, everything's done and dusted. We've had a gentleman who, as I said, who answers a knock on his door at 7:30 in the evening, sitting down to watch Coronation Street in a very, very rural part of our country, and he's met with two guys at the door saying, your son has a €20,000 drug debt, he can't pay it, there's now a family debt. Mind-changing, or a life-changing moment. Who do you turn to? The mental anguish that comes with that is something that obviously cannot be dismissed. So we would encourage people who find themselves in that situation, and this is part of what our program is going to do, is to contact the Gardaí in confidence. We are not in the line of putting people in any more danger because they have received a knock on the door like that. We're here to advise and advise accordingly and keep people safe. I think as an organisation we have got a lot better, both dealing with the public in a situation like this, and there is an onus on us, not just for the enforcement part of it, but for that education and awareness. We're better at managing our own staff in relation to our mental health issues with peer supports, employee assistance. We're better at looking at how to deal with stuff that we're not used to dealing with in the last couple of years, like, dealing with crimes and offences where people come being bullied on Facebook. Coco's Law is out there now, and these are all things that are hugely, beneficial to us going investigating. But the public need to know that those things are there in place, and we have to get that out there, and we have to be a small bit better at trying to get it out, and I suppose that's what we're trying to do with this initiative. And I suppose from a personal point of view, I know people are telling personal stories here. In 2010, my own sister committed suicide. 4 weeks after my dad died. Huge blow to a family that everything was going very well for 12 months earlier. My sister was a member of Garda Síochána. We don't know why. There's no reason that we know of. But 3 weeks after that, I ended up on my back for a month looking at a white ceiling because I had a degenerative disc in my lower back. I played football with Kildare for 11 years, and I suppose the weekend my sister committed suicide, I was on my way to Dermot Early's funeral the same weekend in 2010. But I suppose one of the things that struck me at that time was, and the medical doctor will say, you've got to lie down and stay in your back, because if you don't take the spasm out of your back, you're going to be in a wheelchair when you're 70. And I'm saying, that's grand, and after weeks of being in bed and I'm looking up at a white ceiling, a couple of weeks after my sister was after committing suicide, the mental health side was very, very important to me at that stage, and I had to come to a compromise. I need to get out of this bed because there's too much going on in my head now at this stage as well. So it was, I'll nearly get into a wheelchair at 70 years of age to get out of the bed at this stage, and that's the way it was. But look, listen, we all have wonderful stories, I don't mean wonderful, but we all have stories that we can tell in relation to where we are in our lives and what we've been. And I suppose the message that I want to get out there to people through our initiative, and it is a drugs initiative, it's the impact and the health impact and the consequences that it can have for young people going forward. That moment, that crazy moment in time when you're just thinking or doing that line of coke or smoking that bit of cannabis, and the effects it can have going forward. So I'm hoping that this initiative, we will continue in Carlow. It's going to take off in Kilkenny. We will review it, and it'll be ongoing, but it's not to say that it can't be driven out into every community in the country. That's all I have to say there on that one. Thanks, Turlough.
Thanks, Peter. I suppose Peter's working at the coalface, and it's shocking to hear some of the stories there about these drug deaths and the impact it has on families and people not connected with the offence, if you like, but having to bear the burden of protecting their own family members and their own lives. It's scary, but education is probably the thing we need most of, not just in our GA, but maybe through our schools and so on, because young people, younger and younger, they're being introduced to drugs, and we really need to highlight the dangers of themselves in terms of their own lives, the effects on their careers and so on. So thanks, Peter.